Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Author by Flying Alone. Audio novels by Novelist. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 71. Spirit Weapon. Seeing the appearance of the Staff of Destruction, even Ling Han revealed an expression of utmost seriousness. After a martial artist has reached the spiritual ocean tier, they would be able to use their own origin power to refine weapons, making the attack power of the weapon soar. The higher the cultivation level of the martial artist, the more powerful his weapon would be. For example, the weapon used by a powerful warrior of heaven tier would be able to instantly eliminate a martial artist in deity transformation tier. If I could find the weapon I used in my last life, Cloud Dragon's sword, that'd be great. I'd be invincible in the whole of Rain Country, Ling Han thought, yet quickly laughed in spite of himself. With his current cultivation level, he couldn't even get within 100 meters of Cloud Dragon's sword. If he did, then he'd definitely be directly shattered by the aura of a weapon used by a powerful warrior of heaven tier. But even if I could obtain Cloud Dragon's sword now, I wouldn't use it anyways. Otherwise, training myself in this life would lose its significance. While he had been thinking pensively, Bailey Tengyun and Jin Wuji had begun a fierce battle. The Staff of Destruction was indeed very powerful. After pouring origin power into it, a few seals actually lit up on the body of the staff. However, these seals should be covering the whole body of the staff, yet only a mere few had lit up. 1. With the aid of the powerful Staff of Destruction, Bailey Tengyun regained his footing in the battle. But it was still very far from allowing him to gain victory. Even so, many people were still gasping in shock at the power and might of the Staff of Destruction. It truly deserves to be the weapon used by a powerful warrior. I heard that this kind of weapon is also known as spirit weapon. Apparently, it seems to have its own intelligence, and is able to help its user increase his battle prowess. Unfortunately, only powerful warriors that have reached spiritual ocean tier at least are able to refine these kinds of weapons. In the whole Da Yuan city, only our Da Yuan king has this kind of ability. So, according to you, wouldn't that mean that everyone in the royal house of the Da Yuan king could have a spirit weapon of their own? How could that be possible? Firstly, this kind of weapon has to be able to sustain the origin power of a martial artist of spiritual ocean tier. Otherwise, if such powerful origin power is poured into it day and night, it'd very quickly shatter. Moreover, to produce a spirit weapon, a normal weapon would have to be nurtured by a powerful warrior of spiritual ocean tier for 20 years or more. Just think, when the Da Yuan king broke through to the spiritual ocean tier, how old was he? Even if materials were sufficient, how many spirit weapons could the king forge? I see. Yet Ling Han only shook his head in disappointment. Many years ago, this Staff of Destruction may have been very extraordinary, but now, because of extremely severe deterioration, the spiritual seals engraved on it were almost completely destroyed. There was barely 1% of its original power remaining. However, in a place such as Da Yuan City, even a ruined spirit weapon could create an extremely large commotion. After all, even the materials it was made of were extremely valuable on their own. The two young men continued exchanging blows, battling fiercely. In terms of power, Jin Wuji possessed an absolute advantage. However, Bailey Tengyun possessed a spirit weapon, even if it was a weakened one. It still allowed him to possess great power and fight with Jin Wuji on equal terms. After the two fighters had exchanged a few hundred blows, Jin Wuji still managed to claim victory due to his more plentiful experience. Meanwhile, after Bailey Tengyun had lost this battle, he could only claim the 4th place in this tournament at the very most. He was extremely dissatisfied about this kind of result, but in the minds of the others, this was already very impressive. After all, Bailey Tengyun was only 18 years old this year. Who would be able to match him in the next tournament, or the one after? However, Jin Wuji managed to win more praise and compliments. He is indeed Jin Wuji. He's really way too powerful. Even producing a spirit weapon is not enough to suppress him. Looks like Li Dongyue is no longer a match for him, but I don't know who is stronger, him or the fourth prince. If it was in the past, I would definitely think that the fourth prince is stronger, but now, I think Jin Wuji also has a very high chance of victory. Me too. After the battle with Bailey Tengyun, Jin Wuji's fame reached a whole new level. He had already surpassed Li Dongyue and was already shoulder to shoulder with the fourth prince's level. This caused Li Dongyue to feel much regret. If he had known this would happen, he would have gone to Huyang Academy 3 years ago. Jin Wuji began to regain his composure. Very soon, he would be issuing a challenge to Li Dongyue, and after that, he would be facing the fourth prince directly. The other competitors also began issuing their own challenges. Ling Han did not stay idle. Because there was a limited half an hour's time for rest, he had to make full use of his time. Otherwise, if two of the competitors ahead of him battled for too long, causing him to have to wait impatiently for the half an hour of resting time to pass, he might not have enough time to challenge all the way to the first place. He issued a challenge to the 7th stage master. This was a young man who looked to be about 20 years old. With a long sword strapped to his back and a tall, slender figure, he appeared very confident and at ease. The typical weapons martial artists used were either sabers or swords. But the higher the cultivation level, the weirder and rarer weapons became common as well. For example, umbrellas, pagodas, mirrors, or even pens that, with a single wave, could split rivers and break mountains, possessing terrifying power. I am Lian Tao. Please offer your guidance, Brother Ling, the young man said, clasping his hands in greeting. Please. Ling Han clasped his hands in response. Lian Tao drew his sword and it was as if the sword and the wielder had become one, flying towards Ling Han. 7th layer of element gathering tier. Ling Han fearlessly brandished his own sword in a parry. Although he was in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, with the added support of the 5 elements origin nuclei, his actual ability could be compared to the 8th layer of element gathering tier. He was no longer weaker than his opponent. Moreover, he still possessed the lone wolf's blood which could further increase his power. In terms of power, he would definitely not lose to any normal person in the 9th layer of element gathering tier. Otherwise, he would not have dared to say with such certainty and confidence that he would get the first place in this tournament. Ding, 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 the two of them were soon embroiled in a fierce battle. Their respective swords continuously met each other in a clash, repeatedly producing fiery sparks due to the friction between their blades. The reason why Lian Tao had been able to qualify for the top 10 was because his cultivation level was high enough. However, he could not really be considered as a genius because he had not managed to produce sword chi. The sword arts technique he was using was also only a yellow-grade low-level martial arts technique. Additionally, he had only reached the minor accomplishment level in this sword arts technique. The advantage of a high cultivation level was a stronger power, but now even the power he had gained from his cultivation level was no match for Ling Han. So how could he still possibly win? After only a few moves, he had fallen into an absolute disadvantage. There are 3 black-grade alchemists standing behind this person. Additionally, it's impossible for me to get the first place. Then there isn't much of a difference between the 7th and 8th place anyways. Why don't I do him a favor and forfeit directly? I will help him save some origin power this way. Lian Tao thought. He suddenly retreated a few steps. Withdrawing his sword, he said, I am no match for Brother Ling. I forfeit. He forfeited, just like that. When Ling Han looked at the knowing smile on his opponent's face, understanding dawned on him. Lian Tao was deliberately doing him a favor. He could not help smiling in spite of himself. If he really had put in full effort, he would be able to instantly defeat his opponent in one move. However, whether he needed it or not, Lian Tao had still done him a favor, so he nodded in acknowledgement at Lian Tao. The two of them exchanged tournament stages. Ling Han did not rest. This battle did not expend much of his origin power, so he immediately issued a challenge to the 6th stage master. The stage master of this stage was Xuanhuan, a genius that had just recently emerged in the past 2 years. He was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Brother Ling, please, Xuanhuan said very politely. Although he was very proud due to his young age and had a very high opinion of himself, the fact that Ling Han had 3 black-grade alchemists behind him still caused him to obediently put away his usually arrogant attitude. Please, Ling Han replied politely. If a person treated you respectfully, so must you be respectful in response. The two of them moved at the same moment. Xuanhuan's weapon was a spear and he had also managed to form spear chi. When he waved his 2-meter-long spear in a dance, the might behind his movements was overbearingly powerful. It had fully displayed the unique trait of a spear, which was, the longer it was, the more powerful it was. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 72. Repeatedly throwing the match. Ling Han used the shocking electricity sword arts, not displaying any weakness or conceding in any way. Xuanhuan was indeed very strong. With one wave of the spear, he actually managed to form 2 flashes of spear chi. See. A round of surprised gasps broke out downstage. 2 flashes of chi, this could be considered a very outstanding accomplishment among the younger generation of Dayuan City, especially since Xuanhuan was really too young. He was only 18 years old this year. By the time he had reached the current age of the 4th prince, Li Dongyue and Jin Wuji, how many flashes of chi would he be able to form? 3 flashes, or even 4 flashes, the real sign of having stepped into the ranks of rulers. 2 flashes, huh? Ling Han smiled softly, and with a wave of his sword, 2 flashes of sword chi similarly appeared. Pooh! Everyone once again choked. They hadn't even recovered from their first shock, and here comes another. Ling Han had also managed to form the 2nd flash of sword chi. Could Dayuan City be about to emerge as a new power? One genius after another appeared in close succession. Xuanhuan was also extremely astonished. Indeed, he had formed the first flash of chi through hard work and effort, but the second flash was something he had obtained when he accidentally entered into an ancient tomb, where he came into contact with a strange stone plaque. He had lost consciousness at that point, and saw many memories that were now his own. After he woke up, he discovered that he had somehow formed a second flash of spear chi. Could it be that Ling Han had somehow obtained this kind of chance encounter too? If he hadn't, then he really was too terrifying. To be able to form 2 flashes of sword chi at the young age of 17 years old, he was practically a monster. Xuanhuan continued to be on the offensive for a long while yet did not seem to be making any progress. He could not help feeling a bit dispirited, and when he recalled that Lian Tao before him, he could not help thinking, there are 3 black-grade alchemists standing behind this person, while I am obviously no match for the 4th prince. Then, what difference is there between the 6th and 7th place? Why don't I take this chance to do him a favor then? When his thoughts turned in this direction, he resolutely ceased his attack and said, Brother Ling is indeed extraordinarily strong, I forfeit. Why was there another forfeit? Weren't they obviously locked in a stalemate, with neither fighter having an advantage over the other? Aside from those few who had attended the 4th prince's banquet a few days ago, the rest was very confused. But still, Ling Han had showed that he had formed 2 flashes of sword chi in this battle, and so indeed proved that he was more powerful than Lian Tao. So Lian Tao's forfeit could be claimed as him having foresight. Could it be that Ling Han was actually even more powerful than what he had shown up to now, and that was the reason why Xuanhuan had simply forfeited the battle? Ling Han shook his head, smiled and said, Brother Chia is too humble. Let me offer my best wishes that Brother Ling may obtain an even better result. Let us be on closer terms in the future please. Xuanhuan leapt onto the 7th tournament stage. It was at this moment that Jin Wuji too had issued a challenge, the other party being Li Dongyue. There was no suspense about the result. Within a mere 10 moves, Li Dongyue had been defeated by Jin Wuji. The longing he felt to enter into Huyang Academy also intensified with this loss. Holding onto this momentum firmly, Jin Wuji continued on to challenge the fourth prince. Ling Han had no interest in watching the battles of others. After a short rest, he continued on to challenge the fifth stage master. The fifth stage master was Lu Yu. He was also a genius that had only emerged within the last 2 years. Because these two big battles were ongoing at the same time, majority of the spectators went over to watch the battle between the fourth prince and Jin Wuji. Only people like Ling Dongxing, Lu Yutong and Li Hao paid attention to Ling Han's battle. "Brother Ling, please." Lu Yu was also very polite. It could be argued that no one in the whole of Rain country dared to ignore the existence of a black great alchemist, and there were as many as 3 such alchemists standing behind Ling Han. "Please." Ling Han brandished his sword in an elaborate wave. His first move was 2 flashes of sword chi. Since he had already revealed a portion of his true prowess, he did not continue to hide it. Lu Yu could be said to be tied with Qia Zhongguang in terms of prowess. Since Qia Zhongguang was no match for Ling Han, naturally Lu Yu wasn't either. After exchanging a few tens of moves, Lu Yu could not help thinking, there are 3 black-grade alchemists standing behind this person, and in any case, I wouldn't be able to get the first place, so why not do him a favor? As a result, Lu Yu too very frankly forfeited. Thankfully, most of the spectators' attention had been drawn to the huge battle between the fourth prince and Jin Wuji. Otherwise, there'd definitely be suspicions about this tournament being feigned. Ling Han again rose to a higher ranking, and ahead of him only stood 4 people: Bailey Tengyun, Li Dongyue, Jin Wuji, and Qi Yongyi. Who would have thought this would happen before the tournament? Ling Dongxing could not help growing excited. If Ling Han managed to defeat Bailey Tengyun, he'd gain the right to battle with Jin Wuji and the fourth prince. Getting the first place was no longer a dream. The great battle between Qi Yongyi and Jin Wuji was still continuing. The 2 young geniuses both made a very powerful display. One was using palm techniques while the other was using fist techniques. They have both formed qi, and there were as many as 3 flashes on each side, so they already possessed the preliminary demeanor of a ruler. And it was at this moment that Ling Han issued a challenge to Bailey Tengyun. Ling Dongxing became even more anxious. If Ling Han emerged victorious from this battle, then he'd doubtlessly be able to defeat Li Dongyue and ascend to the 3rd place. Top 3. That was impressive enough. Could he still ask for more? Brother Ling. Bailey Tengyun was also very polite towards Ling Han. He did not even put on any airs as the young sect master of the Bailey sect. He was even friendlier than he had been with the fourth prince. After all, if the fourth prince did not manage to inherit the position of the Da Yuan king, then his status could not be compared to even himself, as the first prince would definitely do his utmost to suppress him. 1. But Ling Han was different. There were 3 black-grade alchemists standing behind him. Please. Please. The 2 fighters respectively spoke a word of invitation. Bailey Tengyun directly drew his staff of destruction and said, "Brother Ling is very powerful. If I do not try my best, then that would be the greatest disrespect to Brother Ling." "Ha ha. Then let me also experience the might of a spirit weapon," Ling Han said with a smile as he lightly waved the long sword in his hand, producing a soft hum. "Take care then." Bailey Tengyun harnessed the black staff and charged in a ferocious attack towards Ling Han. 7 seals lit up in close succession and half a black skull appeared, pouncing towards Ling Han. This black skull contained a sliver of wool of a powerful warrior. Initially, it would be able to create an invisible pressure on a martial artist in gushing spring tier and directly shatter the spirit of a martial artist development gathering tier. However, because too much time had passed, this spirit weapon had also experienced serious deterioration. Its power had long since degraded from how it initially was, and this skull could only produce a limited effect on a martial artist development gathering tier now. But if it wasn't because for that, Bailey Tengyun wouldn't have been able to wield this spirit weapon with his current strength. Though Ling Han was no longer the powerful warrior of heaven tier he had been in the past, and there only remained a sliver of wool of a warrior of heaven tier within him, heaven tier was still heaven tier. Even if it was a mere sliver, it was enough to sweep away all challenges without contention. This black skull was not able to affect him the slightest bit. He used the shocking electricity sword arts. His sword was like a rainbow. Ding, 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 the sword and staff repeatedly clashed, creating friction. 2 flashes of sword chi moved unhindered, and there was no sign of Ling Han falling into a disadvantageous position. Quick! Look there, Ling Han is having a great battle with Bailey Tengyun. What? He's actually so powerful. No wonder Chia Zhongguang and the others forfeited so fast previously. They had already known that Ling Han was so powerful. Damn, when did this kind of freak appear? He's just in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, and he's actually powerful to this extent. More and more people were attracted to that battle. They felt that a single pair of eyes was not enough for them. They wanted to watch the clash of the strongest between the 4th prince and Jin Wuji, but they also wanted to watch the battle of the brightest of the younger generation between Ling Han and Bailey Tengyun. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 73. 4 Flashes of Sword Chi. There were only a rare few that knew that Ling Han had not yet displayed his full abilities, because he had only used 2 flashes of sword chi while his limit was actually 4. And only Ling Han knew that he had not yet stimulated Lone Wolf's blood, which would actually upgrade his battle prowess to yet another level. This was mainly because Ling Han's will was strong enough, so the influence of the Staff of Destruction on the battle was barely visible. This meant that Bailey Tengyun's attacks were mostly dependent on his own power, and he was on a lower level than Li Dongyue, so how could he possibly be a match for Ling Han? In this fierce battle and clash of the young generation, Ling Han was gradually gaining the upper hand. Hey, even Jin Wuji hadn't had such an easy time fighting him, right? Does that mean that Ling Han is even stronger than Jin Wuji? Someone exclaimed in shock. That can't be. The power behind every one of his attacks is inferior to Jin Wuji's, so how is it possible that he's stronger than Jin Wuji? Someone else immediately retorted. But why did Jin Wuji have such a hard time during his battle, yet Ling Han so easily got the upper hand? None of them knew about the fact that the Staff of Destruction had the ability to suppress the opponent's spirit, so of course they did not understand why Ling Han could easily suppress Bailey Tengyun when his attacks were obviously on a weaker level than Jin Wuji's attacks. They were still perplexed even after much thought. Meanwhile, Bailey Tengyun had started thinking, the few people before me had obviously done Ling Han a favor. If I don't do the same, he may resent me. Moreover, I obviously can't get the 1st place anyways, so what difference is there between the 4th and 5th place? When his thoughts took this turn, he quickly drew his staff back and retreated. He said, Brother Ling is indeed very powerful. I forfeit. Damn, why was there another forfeit again? The spectators were just starting to get excited from watching the battle. How come this Bailey Tengyun did the same as those before him, giving up just like that? What kind of background did this Ling Han have, causing every opponent of his to do him favors like that? Ling Han stepped onto the 4th tournament stage, and he only had 3 opponents left ahead of him. Although he had expended a bit of energy battling Bailey Tengyun, he could still fight another battle. Ling Han gave a great leap and arrived on the 3rd tournament stage. Congratulations to Brother Ling for overcoming all difficulties to make it this far, Li Dongyue said to Ling Han before his expression grew serious, and he said, however, as a sign of my respect for Brother Ling, I will try my best in this battle. Please. Ling Han drew his sword and displayed a sword move in response. Li Dongyue gave a long hiss and prepared to use his little Tianyun hands, charging towards Ling Han in attack. Although he was barehanded, after learning this martial arts technique, once he began circulating origin power, his hands would be like finely forged iron, as firm as rock. Even sharp blades had no hope of causing injury to his hands, or at least the ordinary iron sword Ling Han was wielding had no hope of injuring his hands. Ding, 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 as the blade and the flesh of hand clashed, clanging noises continuously echoed out, and there were fiery sparks flying about from the point of contact between the hand and the blade. Li Dongyue was in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, so he exceeded both Bailey Tengyun and even Ling Han in prowess. Thus, after exchanging a few blows, Ling Han could actually feel numbness spreading through the hand he wielded his sword in. However, he had already learnt the body a dead tree ability from the Indestructible Heaven Scroll, so this kind of damage did not affect him in the slightest. Ling Han shook his head. Such a clash of brute force would be non-conclusive unless one of the fighters had a power advantage or both fighters were evenly matched. Even if his body was tough and indomitable due to the body a dead tree skill he had learnt and thus avoided damage from the tremors caused by clashing with Li Dongyue, it was still absolutely pointless. He used the shocking electricity sword arts, and his 2 flashes of sword chi continuously danced, instantaneously turning his disadvantageous position back around. But the name of Li Dongyue was not famous from his talking big. He had managed to form 3 flashes of chi, and as his palms flew in an attack, it was obvious that his power was of a terrifying level. He had lost to Qi Yongyi and Jin Wuji previously simply because those 2 were even stronger than he was. His little Tianyuan Hands was also a yellow-grade high-level martial arts technique, so Ling Han did not possess an advantage in terms of the grade of martial arts technique. In terms of power, he was weaker than Li Dongyue by a single layer of cultivation level, so faced with Li Dongyue's full power attacks, Ling Han gradually fell into a disadvantage. 1. What's the matter? Technically, Bailey Tengyun should be stronger than Li Dongyue, right? Ling Han had an easy time against Bailey Tengyun, but why is he having such a tough time against Li Dongyue now? Could it be that Bailey Tengyun had not tried his best just now? That's definitely the case. Otherwise, how would the current situation be possible? I really am curious now. What kind of background does this Ling Han have? Why is it that all his previous opponents had deliberately allowed him to win? All of the spectators were puzzled and extremely curious. Meanwhile, Ling Dongxing was frowning deeply. His son had defeated Bailey Tengyun, so he should have been like an irresistible force, continuing his advance to obtain the 3rd place. Yet why was he in a disadvantage now against the weaker Li Dongyue? A hint of a smile appeared on the corners of Ling Han's lips. Looks like he would have to increase his abilities. With a wave of his long sword, 4 flashes of sword chi simultaneously appeared. Pooh! This time, all spectators choked. All of them were completely struck dumb. 4 flashes of sword chi. He actually had 4 flashes of sword chi. One has to understand that possessing 4 flashes of sword chi could be considered as a minor accomplishment. Such a person would deserve the name of a ruler, signifying that he could be invincible among those of a certain cultivation level. A 17-year-old ruler. Ling Dongxing was both astonished and elated. He turned to Lu Yutong and asked, Hannah has managed to form 4 flashes of sword chi, did you already know about this? Lu Yutong nodded. In truth, Ling Han had already managed to form 4 flashes of sword chi when he had only been in body refining tier. But this guy had not wanted to reveal his true talent and display his full prowess all this while. Thus, every time he revealed a bit more of his power, it was always enough to give a shock. Very good. Ling Dongxing heavily slapped his thigh, excitement filling his face. This stupid brat even kept his old man completely in the dark. See if I won't teach him a good lesson when we get back. Lu Yutong hid a smile. She knew that Ling Dongxing felt only joy now. How could he bear to reprimand Ling Han? No wonder his previous opponents had forfeited. This guy has apparently managed to form 4 flashes of sword chi. He could be named a ruler among those of the same cultivation level already. I had never really imagined that such a genius would actually emerge from within our Dayuan city. That's true. Among the 36 cities of Rain Country, the martial arts level of our Dayuan city has always been below average. But now there actually appeared a genius that has formed 4 flashes of sword chi from within our midst. He is indeed a source of pride for our city. When these 4 flashes of sword chi appeared, it generated a shock that spread through the whole area. Even the clash of the titans between the fourth prince and Jin Wuji had paled in comparison as more and more people were drawn over, fighting to get a look at the indomitable might of 4 flashes of sword qi. Li Dongyu's face was full of bitterness. He had worked so hard on his cultivation these 3 years. Originally, he had thought that he would be able to get the first place in the Da Yuan tournament this time. But he never imagined that his dreams would be shattered by the fourth prince, causing him to realize that he had fallen behind those in his age range. And now, in a generation younger than his own, there actually appeared a freak that had successfully formed 4 flashes of sword qi, causing his confidence to suffer a severe blow. However, he immediately pulled himself together. As long as he managed to enroll into Huyang Academy, then his prowess would definitely be able to advance by leaps and bounds, and he'd be able to catch up to the fourth prince and Jin Wuji. This person has a close relationship with 3 black-grade alchemists. Moreover, he's also managed to form 4 flashes of sword qi. Why don't I readily forfeit, and do him a favor? Li Dongyue thought. The others have all done him favors, so if I don't, it might not look good. When he thought this, he immediately retreated, clasped his hands and said, Brother Ling is indeed a genius to be able to form 4 flashes of sword qi at the mere age of 17. I am really deeply impressed by your achievements. There is no need to continue the battle, I forfeit. Damn. All of the spectators were depressed. This was the first time that they had seen a genius with 4 flashes of sword qi, and you actually won't fight for a bit longer, letting him enjoy watching to the fullest. Why did you forfeit so soon? Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 74. The Next Battle. Still, Li Dongyue forfeiting was only to be expected. After all, there had been many previous fighters who had forfeited even without any obvious signs of impending loss, so everyone was somewhat prepared that this kind of thing would happen again. Additionally, Ling Han could form 4 flashes of sword qi, which granted him invincibility amongst those of the same cultivation level, even if his cultivation level was still a bit low. Thank you for the match, Ling Han said, clasping his hands in a polite gesture. Yet he couldn't help pondering, would all his opponents let him win all the way to the first place? As the battle between Ling Han and Li Dongyu's battle had concluded, everyone turned their attention back to the duel between the fourth prince and Jin Wuji. Both of them were young geniuses who were studying at Huyang Academy, so their respective ability was quite even. There wasn't really too big of a gap in power between the two of them. But when Qi Yongyi started to use the Son of Heaven Fist technique, Jin Wuji immediately fell into a disadvantage. When the Son of Heaven appears, all shall bow. This was a kind of aura domination, and only a prince like Qi Yongyi would be able to cultivate this technique. Even if Jin Wuji learnt the same technique, it would still be useless. He did not possess the royal heritage necessary to tap into its potential. Rumor has it that stealing the divine weapon of a nation would allow the manipulation of that nation's power. It would not only speed up the rate of cultivation, but could also be used against one's enemies, increasing your own battle prowess. Looks like the rumors aren't false. Just a mere prince, and he possesses such power, Ling Han nodded to himself. The power of the nation is an ability that is equivalent to 4 flashes of sword qi. According to the slang of Rain Country, this would be the standard of a ruler. If the Da Yuan king were to use this fist technique, he'd probably be able to reach approximately the level of 7 flashes of qi since he is a real noble lord. For the true ruler of the nation, he'd probably have the power equivalent to 10 flashes of qi at the level of completion. However, qi is only the first step in martial arts. One still has to go through Rei before being able to reach the highest level, heart. Thus, cultivation ultimately still depends on the effort of the individual martial artist, Ling Han thought, yet he had to admit to be able to manipulate and make use of the power of a nation at the low level of element gathering tier and increase his individual battle prowess to a new level was already impressive enough a feat, even if it was just the tiniest part. Based on Qi Yongyi's current ability, he is practically half a foot into gushing spring tier. Perhaps my little female attendant would be no match for him either. After all, she has just formed the second flash of sword chi, so she still has no way to rival the might of a ruler that he possesses. If it was me, I'd definitely need to use Lone Wolf's blood to upgrade my power to the 9th layer of element gathering tier. Otherwise, I would need to depend on the self-recovery ability of the Indestructible Heaven Scroll and slowly wear him down. With the body a dead tree ability that I have now, my defenses are not something that a martial artist in element gathering tier can break through. I had better stick to using Lone Wolf's blood. Indestructible Heaven Scroll is my real trump card. I should avoid using it if I can. While he had been thinking pensively, the battle between Qi Yongyi and Jin Wuji was nearing its conclusion. The Son of Heaven Fist technique granted Qi Yongyi the battle prowess of a ruler and allowed him to completely dominate Jin Wuji. As long as Jin Wuji himself had not yet formed 4 flashes of Qi, he couldn't possibly be a match for Qi Yongyi. There's nothing to be done. Qi Yongyi had the advantage of a good, noble background, and this was something even Lu Yutong could not compare to. Peng. By the time Qi Yongyi threw his 11th punch, Jin Wuji could no longer resist and was directly flung away. With an "ow tilde," he spat out 4 consecutive mouthfuls of blood, half kneeling on the floor, no longer able to continue the battle. "I have lost," Jin Wuji declared with slight reluctance. Strictly speaking, he had not lost because he was weaker, or because he was less talented. Instead, he had lost because his opponent had a better background than him. How could he not become depressed at this reality? "Thank you for the match." Qi Yongyi clasped his hands politely in response. Although his victory was due to the Son of Heaven Fist technique, it could have been possible only if he had learned it successfully. There were so many princes and imperial princes in Rain Country, but how many had actually successfully learned the technique? The name of genius, he bore it without guilt. However, when the two of them saw that Ling Han had actually arrived on the 3rd tournament stage, they could not help being shocked. Previously, they had been too absorbed in their own battle, and so had not seen Ling Han's fight with Bailey Tengyun and Li Dongyue. Naturally, they had no idea that Ling Han was powerful to this extent, or even of the fact that he had formed 4 flashes of sword chi. The other stage masters had wanted to continue watching the match, but since the duel between the 2 greatest young rulers had concluded, they began to issue their own challenges to aim for a better placement. Doing favors for Ling Han was one thing, but if they could manage to get a better rank, who wouldn't want to try? Ling Han waited quietly. After half an hour, he would challenge Jin Wuji. Currently, the space in his dantian was still too small, and with the high-powered rotation of the 5 elements origin nuclei, his reserves of origin power got expended too quickly. After a fierce battle, he had to take alchemical pills to assist his recovery, thus this half an hour's time was also very important to him. Very soon, half an hour had passed and Ling Han leaped onto the 2nd tournament stage to challenge this martial artist that was ranked 2nd in this tournament. This fell into the expectations of all the spectators and they all stared with their eyes open wide, unwilling to miss a single moment. After all, this was the first genius in the whole of Dayuan City who has managed to form 4 flashes of qi. Jin Wuji had a slightly awkward expression on his face. A few days ago, he was tricked by Ling Han, leading to his public embarrassment. But when he recalled that there were 3 black-grade alchemists behind Ling Han, even if he did not abandon the thoughts of revenge, most likely those seniors of his in the Jin clan would force him to give up such a foolish venture anyway. After all, the very worst group of people you could offend in this world would be alchemists. However, such a great humiliation, how could he simply let it go just like that? Very well, you were the one who challenged me, so I can take advantage of this opportunity to teach you a lesson. As long as I don't deal you any permanent injury, no one will be able to say anything. This is, after all, a martial arts tournament. Jin Wuji thought, his gaze immediately turning sharp. Brother Ling, please offer your guidance. He clapped his palms together and his 2 hands immediately dazzled brightly like gold. This was Jin Yang Palms, a yellow-grade high-level martial arts technique. Ling Han waved his sword in a sword move, and said, please. Whoosh. Jin Wuji immediately began a powerful offense. As his palms flew in attack, a resplendent light shone. Ling Han gave a wave of his sword, and 4 flashes of sword chi immediately appeared. Since he had already revealed his abilities, then he naturally had no intention to hide his prowess any longer. What? 4 flashes of sword chi? Jin Wuji exclaimed in astonishment, his face twitching involuntarily in his shock. 4 flashes of sword chi, that was a ruler of those in the same cultivation level. Even in the imperial city, there were only a rare few who have reached the extraordinary height of possessing 4 flashes of chi, and all of them were the absolute powerhouses of the older generation. How could Jin Wuji not be extremely shocked? But he immediately realized that though there were some that were gasping and exclaiming in admiration, and some who were waving their arms and tripping over their feet in excitement, there wasn't a single expression of surprise amongst the spectators. Hey, hey, hey. This was 4 flashes of sword chi, do you guys not see this? Could it be that it was him who had seen wrongly? Jin Wuji could not help the doubts rising in his heart. After all, just how rare was achieving 4 flashes of sword chi? Even if it had appeared in the imperial city, it would be enough to create a giant commotion. Yet the people here actually appeared so calm, of course he would be confused. Naturally, he had no idea that these spectators had already experienced the same shock as he just now, so of course, there would be no such scenes as people watching wide-eyed and flabbergasted, gaping in shock and wonder. Thankfully, there was one person who gave him face, and revealed an extremely shocked expression, and that, of course, was none other than Qi Yongyi. His mouth was partially open in shock, gaping at Ling Han with a completely dumbfounded expression, a faint twitch at the corners of his lips. After Jin Wuji recovered from his shock, he still persisted in his attack. So what if Ling Han had 4 flashes of sword chi? Ling Han's cultivation level was still too low after all. He would definitely not forfeit just because he had been surprised by the revelation of Ling Han's 4 flashes of sword chi. The 2 fighters were soon engaged in a fierce battle. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 75. Battle for the Top. Jin Wuji possessed the typical power of someone at the peak period of the 9th layer of element gathering tier, and yellow-grade high-level martial arts techniques were also the most powerful techniques that could be learnt within this cultivation level. Moreover, he had also formed 2 flashes of chi. So among martial artists of element gathering tier, he was someone that was definitely close to the rank of ruler. Unfortunately, his opponent was Ling Han. 4 flashes of sword chi equated being a ruler of his cultivation level. Jin Wuji felt as if he was facing Qi Yongyi again. The only difference was that Qi Yongyi was stronger in terms of power. In other areas, Ling Han was not inferior in any way to Qi Yongyi. In fact, in terms of reaction speed and ability, he was even better than Qi Yongyi. Was this really a 17-year-old young man? Talent was indeed a terrifying thing. It wasn't until this moment that Jin Wuji finally abandoned all thoughts of vengeance. He even decided to pay a visit to Ling Han with his younger brother in tow to apologize, and dissolve the bad feelings between them once and for all. It was because Ling Han would definitely have horrifyingly high achievements in the future, and it was practically guaranteed that he would become someone that exceeded Jin Wuji. Since there was no way he could eliminate this kind of rival, then the best idea was to develop an affable relationship with the former. He could definitely not afford to make an enemy of someone of his caliber. The battle continued on and on. This time, aside from using Lone Wolf's Blood and Indestructible Heaven Scroll, Ling Han had used all the abilities he had on hand, allowing him to enjoy the battle to the fullest. Unfortunately, the 5 elements origin nuclei expended origin power at a very rapid pace, which would not allow him to persist for too long. It'd be great if he managed to obtain the Dark Moon Grass. It would help to expand the space in his Dantian by many times. After battling for more than 100 moves, the 2 of them still maintained a very evenly matched balance. Jin Wuji could not help thinking, there are 3 black-grade alchemists behind this guy, and anyways, I won't be. Similarly with those before him, he chose to deliberately throw the match and do a favor for Ling Han. This way, when he brought his brother to pay Ling Han a visit and apologize, it'd probably be easier to dissolve the remaining bad feelings between them. Brother Ling is indeed brilliant in martial arts. I forfeit. He swiftly retreated backwards, clasped his hands together and declared his forfeit. Ling Han's later momentum was already a bit lacking, and he was about to start circulating lone wolf's blood to defeat his opponent instantaneously. He had never imagined that Jin Wuji would actually forfeit of his own volition. Seeing the friendly signal issued by his opponent, he nodded in response and said, "Thank you for the match. Anyone can make mistakes, so it'd be wise to forgive them if it was possible." Moreover, in the first place, the conflict between himself and Jin Wuji wasn't an irresolvable feud that could not be forgiven. Sure enough, another forfeit. Could it be that among the martial arts techniques that Ling Han has learned there is one specifically geared to make his opponent forfeit? Ha 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 ha, if you were as talented as Ling Han and have also formed 4 flashes of sword chi, I could also declare forfeit in front of you. Hey, how could 4 flashes of sword chi be so easily formed? The spectators felt both astonished because Ling Han actually advanced another step further and numbed as they thought that this was only a natural course of events. After all, this scene had already played many times. Thankfully, Ling Han only had one last opponent remaining, and even if Qi Yongyi forfeited too, they only needed to experience a shock one last time. Good. Ling Dongxing gripped his hands into tight fists, slightly numb with excitement. His son was able to achieve such a feat, what else could he ask for? He recalled that when his son had declared that he would obtain the first place in the tournament 2 months ago, he felt absolutely incredulous. But what about now? The first place was so close at hand. Even if he knew that Qi Yongyi was very powerful and the Son of Heaven fist technique was equivalent to 4 flashes of sword chi as well as that his cultivation level was far above Ling Han's own, he still could not help the wild hope bursting to life within him. What if his son really managed to do the impossible? First place. Since he had already come so far, then he should definitely aim for the first place. If he didn't even issue a challenge, he would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. The other stage masters were all engaged in battle, but there were already few spectators who were still watching these battles. Everyone was waiting with bated breath for Ling Han to recover and the last battle to take place. Was it Ling Han who would be able to create another miracle, and become the greatest dark horse in this Yuan tournament? Or would it be the 4th prince that would have the last laugh, completely leaving behind the title of 2nd place? Ling Han had more than enough time to rest and recover as there was no rule that specified that he had to issue a challenge after resting for half an hour. He would, of course, recover to his best condition before proceeding to challenge Qi Yongyi. Although even after a long time, Ling Han did not make any move to issue a challenge, none of the spectators rushed him into doing so, for they knew very well that only if Ling Han managed to recover to his best condition could he and the 4th prince offer the most wonderful, brilliant battle. After another hour passed, Ling Han finally stood. Here it comes. Here it comes. All of the spectators thought, immediately growing excited. 4th prince, let us battle. Ling Han jumped up onto the first tournament stage and issued a challenge to Qi Yongyi. Brother Ling, please. Qi Yongyi smiled, though he felt an urge to start cursing. After all the people before him had thrown their matches because there were 3 black-grade alchemists standing behind Ling Han. Should he throw his match or not? If he threw the match, then what? The first place of this Yuan tournament was something that he had coveted for 3 years, and the Dark Moon Grass could help him to immediately step into Gushing Spring tier, which would save him 2 or 3 years' time of cultivation at the very least. But if he didn't, then what? The others have all thrown their matches, and you don't. Wasn't this not giving face to Ling Han? It'd be fine if it was anyone else, but Qi Yongyi had a grand ambition. He was someone who would become a famous lord, and a famous lord definitely should respect the wise and recruit talents from everywhere and anywhere. Especially with a genius like Ling Han, to enter a conflict with him was naturally something very bad. So how could Qi Yongyi not be stuck in a dilemma? Finally, Qi Yongyi still decided to do his best. If worst comes to worst, after he had commissioned the concoction of alchemical pills from the dark moon grass, he'd give one to Ling Han. Please. Ling Han waved his sword, and 4 flashes of sword chi appeared. Xuanhuan gave a loud shout and already started using the Son of Heaven fist technique. His movements were very large, as if a single punch would be able to shatter everything even if it was a mountain that appeared in his way. What was even more terrifying was the fact that there were actually 3 layers of chi wrapped around his fists. Although the power of the nation could not simply be added onto it in a sum, but no matter how it was, its strength was still equivalent to 4 flashes of sword chi. All of the spectators gasped in shock. So it turned out that Xuanhuan had not displayed his full abilities previously, and this was the true extent of the 4th prince's power. So powerful, how could Ling Han win against this? Even if his opponent was someone close to gushing spring tear and had not yet formed chi, he wouldn't be able to match Xuanhuan either. Peng, peng, peng. After repeated blows from heavy fists, Ling Han fell into a continuous retreat. However, even if he withstood this kind of attack, there was absolutely no harm done to his body. Body a dead tree. Ling Han was a bit stunned. If he didn't start bleeding, how was he supposed to circulate Lone Wolf's blood? He was about to faint. So it turned out that defenses that were too strong might not necessarily be a good thing, as it actually conflicted directly with him using Lone Wolf's blood. He shouted loudly, and bit down on his tongue harshly. Immediately, a bitter taste flooded the inside of his mouth. He had finally started bleeding. Hong, the 4-5 elements origin nuclei in his body immediately began rotating even faster, suddenly allowing his power to be raised to a new level. 9th layer of element gathering tier. The higher the cultivation level, the smaller the power upgrade from Lone Wolf's blood. However, this was already enough. Ling Han brandished his iron sword, using the shocking electricity sword arts to its full extent. Ding, 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 peng, 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 peng. The 2 fighters were embroiled in a fierce clash as they displayed their respective prowess as much as they liked. Gods, so it turns out that element gathering tier could actually be this powerful. I'm also in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, but if I were the one fighting, I'd probably be defeated within 3 moves. If you constantly compare yourself to others, you will only make yourself angry. A new generation is soon going to replace the old generation. We're all old already. This era belongs to the young generation. Quite a number of the clan heads from Grey Cloud Town were sighing tiredly. Some of them were 30 years old, 40 years old, or even 50 years old, and they were all stuck on the cultivation level of 9th layer of element gathering tier. Because they could not manage to break through even after a very long time, they improved their own origin power to its limits with constant practice, but when facing these 2 young talents, they could only sigh at their own inferiority. End of the chapter. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.